hardest thing for parents to see, and especially for dads, is the power that we have to either build up or burn holes in the self-worth of our kids. The Kelly Clarkson video, Piece by Piece, is a tearjerker. I cried the first time that I watched it. It is so difficult to see the damage that we as parents can do. And a lot of times, by the time you see it, it feels like it's too late. So let's take a look at, take a listen to that video.
With a very emotional song called Piece by Piece, please welcome Kelly Clarkson.
And all I remember is your back, walking towards the airport, leaving us all in your past. I traveled 1,500 miles to see you. I begged you to want me, but you didn't want to. But piece by piece, he collected me up off the ground where you abandoned things. Yeah, piece by piece, he filled the holes that you burned in me. Yeah, 6 years old, and you know he never walks away. He never asks for money. He takes care of me, 'cause he loves me. Piece by piece, he restored my faith that a man can be kind and a father could stay. And all of your words, they fall flat. I made something of myself, and now you wanna come back. But your love, it isn't free, it has to be earned. Back then I didn't have anything you needed, so I was worthless. Piece by piece, he collected me up off the ground where you abandoned things. Yeah, piece by piece, he filled the holes that you burned in me. 6 years old, and you know he never walks away. He never asks for money. He takes care of me, 'cause he loves me. Piece by piece, he restored my faith that a man can be kind and a father could stay. Piece by piece, well, piece by piece, I fell far from the tree. I will never leave her like you left me, and she will never have to wonder her worth, because unlike you, I'm gonna put her first. And you know he'll never walk away. He'll never walk away. He'll never break her heart. He'll take care of things. He'll love her. And piece by piece, he'll restore my faith. That a man can be kind and a father should be great. Piece by piece.
So painful to watch that. It's easy to think as a dad, and she's singing to, first of all, she's singing to her own dad, and then she's singing to her husband, or actually next is to the stepdad, the person who stepped in to help pick up the pieces of her life, and then to her husband, who she's counting on to not do what her dad had done. And as a father, I look at that and I think, man, it's easy to say, oh, I haven't burned big holes in my kid's life like that. And, and some dads have, and how painful it is the day that they realize that. But the truth is, like, I burn little holes, and a lot of little holes turn into a big hole. And how do I burn little holes? How did we as parents, as dads, we burn little holes every time that we're unnecessarily harsh with our kids. Times that I'm impatient, there's something that I want to do, and my child has something else that she wants to do, and I get impatient and with her or with one of my sons. One of my other things that I'm not proud of, but that I will do is my "you stupid" tone, which I'm frustrated with something, they're not getting it as fast as I want them to, even if I didn't explain it as well as I thought I did. And I have this attitude and this tone of do you understand yet? And it's painful to hear my kids later when they reveal their self-talk and they're struggling with school or something, and they're just saying, "Oh, I'm so stupid." And it's like, who put that voice in their head? I did, and that's painful. One more voice, one more way that I burned small holes is through disinterest. That my kids would come to me, "Hey, Dad, look at this. I want to show you something." I'm like, okay. And I wasn't really paying attention, and I knew it. They knew it. Disinterest can damage a relationship almost as much as disappearing on your kids. It's being present but not present. I had a friend who told me he was married, had kids, and his dad wasn't coming around much, and he called him and talked to him, and his dad just said, "I'm just not that interested in you and your family." It's like, and he told me, man, that hurt, because interest is a choice. It's not something that you feel, it's something that you do. John of the Cross said, "Where there is no love, put love, and you will find love." So love is a choice. The corollary to that is where, because some people, I get it, there's times that you're not interested in what your child is interested in, at least on the natural order. So the corollary to that is where there is no interest, put interest, and you will find interest. I had a situation happen where one of my daughters came up. We had just gotten home from someplace. She jumped on her bike and she was riding down the cul-de-sac, and she rode towards me, and she's like, "Hey, Dad, let me show you my spy bike." And I remember at the time I had a million things to do, and I didn't want to listen to her tell me about her spy bike. And a little voice inside said, "Shut up, Michael, and pay attention to your daughter." So I forced myself to stop, and I said, "Okay, show me." And so she started to point out the bell, and how the bell was a secret communicator, so she could communicate with home base, and how the handlebars, how she could twist them and flip them up, and that those would help her to be able to go at excessive speeds. And if she turned this one this way, the bike would actually begin to fly. And she started to explain this whole world that was present to her, and I was fascinated. I had no idea that this was going on, and I almost missed it. I was looking at her in the eye, and I thought, wow, I am missing her grow up right underneath my eyes, because I'm busy worried about my own interest. So it's really easy to be hard on other people and soft on myself, to be hard to get through to, but soft on myself and soft on my expectations, and give myself a pass. And what that did in my life is that I became hard-hearted. It was hard to get through to me. And when I started to make the decision to say, no, I'm going to force myself to pay more attention, what I found is, and so I had to be hard on myself and hard on my selfishness, and soft on my children, soft on my wife. And when I started to do that, it softened my heart. I started to notice more things about my wife, notice more things about what was going on with my children, and my heart softened towards them. I actually was able to perceive things about them that I wasn't picking up before. So I actually was able to love them better. When God conferred on Adam and gave Adam the power to name all of the animals in the garden, that wasn't just about putting a label on them. He gave Adam, as the head, the power to confer identity. And we as fathers, we have that power. We confer identity on our kids. We confer a message that they are loved and cherished and wanted, or we confer an identity that they're a burden, that they're not worth spending time with. And so it's not just about a name, it's about how we love them. And what I found is that when I spent more time striving to cherish my children and choose them, I actually began to, at first it was hard, and it's still hard, but I began to cherish them more and actually like them more. And funny thing, they actually began to like me more. I began to enjoy our relationship more. My sister-in-law said this beautiful thing. She said, when you have a damaged relationship, which who doesn't damage their relationships? She said, you make little love investments. And you just keep making them, especially when you're being rejected. And those love investments pay interest, they pay dividends over time. So we've got to make them. And God gave us the example in Scripture. He told us that the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure buried in a field. Well, if a treasure is buried in a field, it means that you need to go dig for it. You need to get dirty and you really need to work at it. And while you're at it, when you dig up that treasure of seeking your children, seeking your wife, seeking God and being attentive to them, bury in that hole your self-interest, your selfishness, because that's where it needs to stay. And that treasure, what is that treasure? It is loving God and loving our neighbor, starting with loving our spouse and our children most. That's the treasure that will satisfy our hearts. So as parents, we don't need to, especially as a dad, I don't need to have perfect performance, because if I do, I'm gonna despair because I fail a lot. But I need to strive for perfect attendance, perfect attention, to do my best, to pay attention, to listen. And isn't that what I want? I want to be cherished. I want to be chosen. I want to be listened to. I need to give that. And then for sure, God gives that to me. And eventually my children and your children will give that to you. I was struck by the fact that in Catholic teaching, we call Jesus in the Eucharist, who is there silent, we call him the real presence. And I thought, well, wait a second. I'm made in God's likeness and image. I'm made to be really and truly present to my kids. Well, first of all, to God, to my kids, and to my wife. And what I found is I've spent more time in Eucharistic adoration. I now do a daily holy hour early in the morning, 5:15. And when I do that, what I find is that I've actually started to want to be in God's presence more. I've actually started to love him more. And as I've realized it's like, wow, I need to do this more with my wife and my kids. And when I've done so, the more that I do that, the more that I'm really and truly present to them and with them and paying attention, I'm liking them more, I'm loving them more. So being attentive is a choice, and it's a battle, and it's an ongoing battle, but it's a battle worth fighting for. When I created the Family Conquest program, I made it partly out of my failure as a father, as some way to be able to connect with my kids, to be able to delight in something with them. And so I went and found viral YouTube videos, short ones that were cool and interesting, and we would play those together. And then we would pull out from them through some questions and answers, like what the Catholic truth was in them. And that was really good and interesting. And then we would talk. We would share stories about things that happened when I was growing up. They would share stories with me and stuff that I'd never heard and I wouldn't have heard if we didn't take the time to be together. So it was really a great way for us to connect with each other, to delight in each other. And the videos would grab our attention, and then the questions were like icebreakers. And there was ice that needed to be broken, because I had put up a shield of self-interest, and they had put up a shield of self-defense, because they didn't want to be treated with disinterest again. So those icebreakers helped, and it worked. And it started over time. I started to become more attentive to God, to my kids. And funny thing, my kids started to become more attentive to God and to family and to me. So our hearts were made by God, and God is love. God is hyper, super loving attention. And so since God is love, what is made by love is satisfied by love. So from the top, one of the hardest things for us to see is the power that we have to either burn holes or build up the self-worth of our children. And if you look at Kelly Clarkson, pray for her. She's got a beautiful heart, but she's wounded. And she's going to have a tough time, because it will come with her own children. She will wound them. She will damage them. And it will be hard for her to forgive herself when she is struggling with forgiving her own father. And you know what? She is not going to hurt her children in the way that her dad did. She's going to hurt them in new ways, because that's what we do. We hurt them in ways that we don't see right away. And remember, burning small holes can be just as damaging as burning a lot of small holes as burning a big hole. And disinterest can be as damaging or close to it as disappearing. Where there's no interest, put interest and you will find interest. Be hard on yourself and soft on others. Cherish and choose God and your spouse and your children, and you will begin to feel being cherished and chosen by them. Make little love investments and they will pay dividends. Be really and truly present to God, spouse, and kids. Do Family Conquest. It's a free program and it works. And what was made by love is satisfied only by love. 6 years ago, when I founded the Strong Catholic Dad Ministry and made the Family Conquest program into a program instead of just the videos that I was sharing my kids, but putting them online, the reason I did it, what motivated me, was that 85% of Catholic kids are rejecting the faith by the time they hit, well, at least what we see it, by the time that they leave college. And that's a bloodbath. They're leaving the path to heaven that's going to make them happy. But what I found over the course of those years of ministry is that before they rejected their parents' faith, they first of all were rejecting their parents' love. They were rejecting not being delighted in. And this is especially, there's a profound influence of dads, that dads' lack of delighting in their children makes kids run the other direction and embrace the world and embrace the love of the world, the love of money, the love of pleasure, the love of fame. But if a dad delights in his children, the statistics shift the complete opposite direction. And if he's delighting in his kids and he's delighting in God, what's going to happen is his kids are going to do the same thing. They're going to follow suit and they're going to find the delight in God and they're going to find the delight in family and the delight in him that he's made for. So we as dads need to change that priority. I've been fighting this battle to light the fire of love of God and love within families for the past 6 years. And it's been tough. It's been tough. Quite frankly, I've been subsidizing the ministry the whole time. It never provided for my family. Back in the fall, I made a deal with God. I said, okay, here's the deal, God. I will take the prices off everything. I will make this ministry 100% free. And I will continue to dedicate my full-time effort to this ministry, to reaching out to families and getting parents and kids to connect with each other and to connect with God. I just ask you to confirm that this is your will. Confirm it by providing for us the funding that we need to pay for the ministry expenses. And so we set a goal with my spiritual director and my wife of and what it was going to take to be able to fund things, and it was $103,000. And with that's $8,600 of monthly support. And we set a deadline of May 20th, 2024, which is the day after Pentecost. It's this coming Monday. It is the memorial of Our Lady, Mother Mary, Mother of the Church. So far, we've received $2,600 of monthly support, which is $31,000 that's been pledged, and we have still to go $6,000 of monthly support, which is $72,000. So, I've said before, if I was asking for money to save kids from being kidnapped or starved or prostituted or murdered, the money would roll in. Instead, what I'm trying to do is, and as a ministry, what we're trying to do is stamp out the root cause of prostitution, addiction, of murder, of all of these ills that we have. And that root cause is from not loving God and not loving our neighbor. It's not just the great commandment, it's the key that's going to satisfy our hearts, and it changes the world. And it's really hard to inspire people to give sacrificially when they can't see the damage yet. After the damage has been done, then people are willing to sacrifice financially. So if the suffering that you saw that Kelly Clarkson has endured, if broken families, if you think of the broken families in your surrounding, and you think of the wounded kids that, we just keep putting wounded kids on the streets, and if that moves your heart, please sacrifice with us. Please pledge and make a monthly pledge to the Family Conquest program, or make a one-time pledge. Help us to light that fire before it's too late. Please help. And again, the deadline is this coming Monday, May the 20th. And for a pledge, it just has to be fulfilled by the end of the year. Thank you so much, and may God bless you, and may the Holy Family intercede for all of us so that we can really, piece by piece, pick up our children and families and become who God has called us to be.